Why aren't they being spotted before they hit the market, too? That's what I want to know. Dave Felio is the president and CEO of the Realtime Group. That's a product development company. He'll join us in the 4 o'clock hour. The government's primary products watchdog, Consumer Product Safety Commission, announces at least one recall every day on average. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, for its part, says it's never experienced anything like the Takata airbag recall. 14 automakers, as many as 1 in every 4 of the 250 million vehicles on America's roads are affected. The fix is tricky. The stakes are high. 13 deaths worldwide at least. Some of the largest had minimal customer impact, though, recalls. The record for the sheer unit numbers was a 2004 recall of toy jewelry imported from India, sold for 75 cents or less a piece in vending machines. Some of it contained lead, prompting a recall of 150 million pieces, but nobody was sick or harmed in that one. Just this past week, IKEA, 36 million chests and dressers recalled after 6 deaths. Toyota, another 1.25 million for airbag problems not related to Takata. And Nature Valley bars are recalled over possible listeria contamination. So what in the world is going on? Let's bring in our guest. Dave Felio is the president and CEO of the Realtime Group, a product development company. Dave, I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. Thanks for joining us here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Yes, that is perfect. Thank you.
All right. What's going on here with all these recalls, Dave? Why are there so many these days?
It goes down a little facetious, but it's the way to stop recalls is to stop innovation. And I mean, what I mean is we are seeing more and more new products, new ideas, complex products being introduced into market, being brought into development, and they are increasingly more complicated. They have more and more software-driven solutions, electronics that couple with the product itself, and that level of complexity combined with the sheer volume of new products, it's going to lead to more and more products that are going to have a fault or be recalled.
So is it just a case of the government not keeping up with technology, or?
I don't think it's not fair to say it's the government itself. The government, our government, has regulatory bodies who take it on themselves to try to keep things safe. But the industrial, the product development industry has to continue to keep up with them in capability as well. And that's kind of a challenge because, what we see is to create a good, solid product engineer takes between 5 and 10 years of experience and discipline and learning. But to create a great innovator, sometimes there's great innovators coming out of college that invent new product ideas that have to go through development. Combined with all of the companies that are always pushing out new products, and so it's kind of a challenge to keep up with the growing innovation that's going out there. It's a great thing, but it's just a reality of product development takes a lot more incubation time and development and experience to be ready to keep up with innovation.
Sure, you're speaking right to what we had reported on earlier in the week. The Tesla, the self-driving Tesla, the driver using the autopilot feature of that Tesla Model S, the first death of its kind. Obviously, it was a tragic loss of life, but they're looking at whether or not the Tesla had to do with it, or whether or not it was autopilot error. So. Up there with just what you're talking about, innovation, I should say. I'm not saying, every product causes death, that kind of thing. Well, let me ask you this. Are we also getting better at flagging these things as they come out to market? I mean, because of so many recalls?
Yes. The testing isn't what it used to be. People who develop test suites, the testing scenarios, the method of testing is much more sophisticated, much more evolved, because it has to be. And frankly, the regulatory bodies, the FDA being one of them, they take that public safety very seriously, and they view it as their job to to press hard to keep the standards high, particularly in medical devices, so that they catch those issues before they hit the market. A lot of the recalls you see are recalls that are driven from discovery during the test and evaluation.
Yeah. Our guest this afternoon, Dave Felio, the president and CEO of the Realtime Group, a product development company. The website is the realtimegroup.com. Now, I know you deal with product development technology, but I wonder if you could touch on food because, back in the day, you'd have a stomach virus for about 24 hours, and you didn't even question it. I must have been sick for the day, or something got me, and you either sweated it out at home or you powered through it at work. But now we trace it back to things you've eaten at a restaurant or maybe a surface you've touched. I guess that technology that you're talking about being innovated also is working on the other hand here to help us trace the line back to where that contamination came from.
Well, I can tell you so food as technology itself, I'm not qualified to talk about, but the technologies for the machines and the processes and the chemicals that prepare food and measure the health of food and the bodies that regulate it are increasingly more and more capable and more thorough.
Sure.
Likewise, what I do know about, for example, aviation and medical device products, there's this thing called traceability that is built into certain kinds of products, especially if they're safety critical, such that if there's a failure, you can go back and trace where the parts came from and the original sourcing for them. That's very important, obviously, if you're for the NTSB when they're investigating an accident. So I think, I'm guessing probably the food industry is increasing their awareness and their ability to track the sources of food as well.
Hey, Dave, can I get you to hold on through the break there? Because I want you to take us through what you have to go through when you are delivering a product and what the government looks at. If you're okay to hold on through the break there. Okay. Our guest is Dave Felio. He's the president and CEO of the Realtime Group, a product development company. We are talking recalls. Matt Ray sitting in, Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Good Sunday afternoon. Happy 4th of July weekend. Matt Ray sitting in, Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Taking your calls at 855-839-1210 on Twitter and on Facebook, both at Matt Ray Talk. We are talking product recalls. If it seems like there's a new one making the headlines every single day in this country, it's because they are. The most recent IKEA recalls 36 million chests and dressers after 6 deaths. Toyota recalls 1.25 million cars for airbag problems not related to the Takata airbag, the largest. This is just. You thought Volkswagen had to pay a lot of money for their situation with cheating the emissions test. This Takata airbag recall dwarfs that. And the Nature Valley bars are recently recalled over possible listeria contamination. So are products less safe, or are we getting better at detecting defects? I think according to our guest here, it's the other part there. We're getting better at detecting the defects. Dave Felio, president and CEO of the Realtime Group, a product development company, specializes in tech. Dave, so I want you to take us through your industries, medical and biotech, aerospace, transportation. When you get a product and you want to take it to market, what's the process there of going through the government, if you will?
So it varies kind of greatly depending on the complexity of the kind of product and the criticality of it. But just to kind of keep it simple, there's some really important concepts that we help our customers with when we're taking something to market with them. The first one is just try to always be beginning with the end in mind, right? So and that sounds kind of simplistic, but if you think about what that means, before you really start even designing the thing, you kind of got to lay out the use cases for it and the intended use and the possible misuses, and kind of map out, as it were, how you think this thing might be used or mishandled or handled in different ways. And then you got to determine based on that and your perceived criticality and some industry knowledge what the regulating body or bodies are going to be. For example, if it's just a consumer product, it may need to get a UL certification or a CE mark. Those are certification types for consumer products. Or if it's a medical device, you're going to have to determine whether it's going to be which class of device, depending on how critical it is to the patient that it'll be. And so the reason you have to do that is so that you have a very clear understanding of the level of rigor and testing and process you're going to have to use when you do the thing. So then
you mentioned.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
The next important step, and again, there's a myriad of steps here, but the big ones are you go from that outlining the intended use to doing this thing called a failure modes and effects analysis, and you do this several times through the design life cycle. But failure modes and effects is basically what it sounds like. It's a structured, detailed way of thinking through all of the different. You kind of build this fault tree, and you think of all the different ways that each down to the transistor or to the switch or the faucets turn. What could possibly fail and how, and try to associate probabilities with it. And so from there, you'll build the testing that has to go along with it, the entire test protocols. You do all those things while you're initiating the requirements for the design, and then of course you go through the design and move it through several cycles of prototyping and evaluation, and then once you get the product working like you think, you take it into test. And then into certification.
You had mentioned possibly stifling product development in the beginning of our conversation. Let me ask you this. When somebody comes up with an idea or something to simplify our lives, let's say, should they even be thinking about what the government might have to say about this right off the bat? Or I mean, what's kind of the thought process there?
They should, because what we see a lot of times is when a company doesn't do that, a lot of times the Realtime Group will get called when a company gets too far down the road, maybe a startup, and they go develop an awesome product, but they really didn't have a clear understanding of what the regulatory restrictions are going to be. And then you get down the road and you realize that you've got to do a lot of rework and generate a lot of documentation or put in some processes. It can be very costly. I've seen it ruin startups that didn't think things through. But it's also important because that's part of that design with the end in mind concept, is to really, the best way to get all those things right is to get that engineering done up front. And the only way to do that is understand how you're going to design it and what the regulations are going to be that you have to design to.
Well, how did you become such a saint, Dave, to where you look, I bash the government a lot, I bash the government for not being able to keep up with technology a lot on several fronts here, but how did you become such a saint to where you became this kind of bridge between things that make our lives better and dealing with getting them out to market and dealing with the government?
I got about 25 years of battle scars and lessons learned and engineering I've been involved in. I guess I want to answer that. Doing it a long time.
Well, I'm curious your thoughts on the Takata airbag recall and the VW recall. I know you can't speak for either, but have you ever seen anything like that?
Oh, that's one of the tough things too when you see products that it may be a tiny little the mode or the mechanism of the device might not be that significant, but its effects are huge. And when you multiply it across the distribution of some of these products have such massive distribution, it can be a big deal, right? And it can. You're kind of seeing something that the effect of it is a bigger deal because of the cost it's going to take to go recover all these vehicles and put them back in there, and it's expensive to reinstall airbags. And so you got this kind of a lever arm on a failure sometimes. And that's what I think this one is. The specific oversight that got them to this, we've looked at it a little bit. We're not involved in it professionally on this one, but it's just it's always hard to say whether or not somebody really did it, was overlooking the design or wasn't being careful enough, or if it was just one of those things that was tough to see. before it happens. Sometimes it takes a real genius to see some of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, Dave Felio, the president and CEO of the Realtime Group, a product development company. The website is the realtimegroup.com. Hey, Dave, thanks for spending a few moments with us here on the holiday weekend. We appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it was great. It was great to talk to you. And hey, for everybody, obviously, there's no real certification body for fireworks, for personal fireworks. So, just watch the professional ones. Don't get them yourself.
That's a good point, Dave. We brought that up earlier. Yeah, I know. 100% on point there. Hey, Dave, take care. Happy 4th of July weekend.
Yes, sir. Thank you.